Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk about realistic ways of reducing noise in your pictures. Now, why am I saying realistic ways? Because if you watch many videos, if you read many articles, you're going to understand that the first thing that most people say is, you need to buy a new camera, you need to switch camera systems, you need to buy new lenses. And honestly, for most people, let's be realistic, you just can't afford to do that every time you want to make an improvement in your pictures. Now, don't get me wrong. Some areas you're going to have to bite the bullet and buy a better camera or better lenses. But there's a lot of workarounds, and today's video is about some workarounds that you can do to reduce the noise in your images. So, first thing, what the heck is noise? Well, you're going to hear me say noise and you're going to hear me say grain because I'm from the film school. I moved into digital many years ago, but still film stuff's in the back, and I still say both, noise and grain. Basically, here's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the pixelization, the noisiness, the graininess, the dots that you see when you take pictures, and the pictures, the colors, the what subject or whatever isn't smooth. That is the noise. So you take a picture of a blue sky, you shoot it at 100 ISO on a bright sunny day, and you look at the picture on your computer or you get it printed out, and the blue is smooth, it's soft, it's silky. There's no pixelization to it. There's no spots in it. You increase your ISO up to, let's say, 3200 or 6400. You take the picture and you start seeing these specks and dots in the sky in different areas. And that is the noise that we are talking about. So what causes the noise? Well, the noise we're talking about today is the basic noise of shooting at higher ISOs. That's what the cause is. Now, there's other causes. One of the causes, and I mentioned it before, is it could be old camera equipment. It could be the generation of the camera. It could be many different things with the camera or the lens. But again, most people can't afford to go out and buy brand new equipment just to solve a little problem. If it's a big problem, yeah, you may have to do it. But if it's something that you deal with once in a blue moon, it's just not worth it. So let's talk about how to solve it realistically. Well, realistically, the way you want to solve it is by shooting at lower ISO settings. Bingo, that's it. So how do you do it? Well, first, try to set it as low as your ISO that you can go to. Stop cranking your cameras up to 1600, 3200, 6400 if your camera can't handle those higher ISOs. Again, so many people say, shoot at this setting and everything will be perfect. Well, for a certain camera, it may be. In certain situations, it may be. If you're looking for a black and white grainy look picture, shooting at 6400 or 12,000 ISO may work perfectly. But if you're looking for smooth skin tones for a bride or a baby or a maternity picture or a blue sky or an animal or water or whatever, shooting at the higher ISOs may not be a way that you can get the look that you want. So turn your ISO down as low as you can go without ruining the pictures. What can you do to facilitate being able to turn your ISO down? Well, the first thing is open your lens up as wide as you can possibly go. So if you have a lens that's an f1.2 lens, shoot it at f1.2. F2, shoot it at F2. F3, shoot it at F3. Whatever the best setting is that's going to let in the most light, open your lens up to that point and allow the most light to come in so you can turn down your ISO and still shoot with an acceptable grain or noise level. Now, it may not be achievable. If you're shooting with, let's say, a 600 millimeter lens and the best aperture you have on that is 6.8. Well, if you've set that 6.8 and it's still too dark, you may have to turn up your ISO. You may have to. So accept that fact. A word of warning. This happens to a lot of photographers, and I get a lot of people coming in here for prints, and their photographers screwed up by doing this. On the other school of thought, a lot of photographers are out there saying, shoot at 1.2, shoot at 1.8, shoot at f2. Your pictures will look so much nicer and you'll get so much better bokeh and distortion and out of focus backgrounds. But what they don't tell you is this. Shooting at 1.2 may work perfect for a portrait of one person. You focus on the eye's nice and sharp, the nose is a little bit sharp, but just a little bit out of focus so your eyes are attracted to their eye, and it looks amazing. But if you shoot at that same setting with 3 or 4 people and they're staggered, you're going to get one person tack sharp and other people that aren't as sharp if you're shooting at 1.2, 1.8, f2, whatever your setting is. If you're shooting groups of people and you have rows, this is a big problem for people. They set their cameras, they have a 50mm 1.8 and they set it at 1.8 and they focus on the first row, and the first row is tack sharp, or most of them are at least. The second row is not near as sharp. The third row is really out of focus. So sometimes you just can't open your lens up to let all the light in and still get the picture you're looking for. Now, in nature, in wildlife, if you're shooting an animal, if you focus on the eye and the nose is a little bit out of focus, not a big deal. If you focus on the eye and the ear is a little bit out of focus, not a big deal. But if you focus on an elk in the foreground and you want the elk in the background in focus, shooting at f2, f2.8, or whatever the setting is that your lens will open up to will distort the background. So remember this. Just because people say you can do it doesn't mean it's going to work. Okay, number 2, what can you do? Turn on the image stabilizing of your lens or your camera. Turn on the vibration reduction. This will allow you to shoot at a little slower of a shutter speed and thereby being able to reduce your ISO on your camera. Not the perfect world. It is not. I would rather shoot at 500th of a second if I'm shooting a 500mm lens than shooting at 250th of a second and hoping that my image stabilizing is going to fix it. But guess what, people? It can work. I've done it many times in churches, in reception halls, at banquet halls, at award ceremony, where I wasn't allowed to take extra lights, where I wasn't allowed to use flashes, and I was using just available light, and I didn't want to crank my ISO up stupid high. So what did I do? I relied on the camera to use its image stabilizing system to allow me to shoot at a slower shutter speed and a lower ISO. It does work. Again, not ideal. You may be pushing it. You may find that you get less keepers. But hey, if it still gets you the picture and you don't have to go out and buy a $10,000 lens or an $8,000 camera body, hey, it's well worth it. The next thing, and this one hurts whenever I tell people, if you watch many of my videos, you'll know I'm not a tripod person. But guess what? Using a tripod can definitely help if you're trying to keep your ISO down low. Now, again, beware. Tripod is not the magic cure for everything. You can be shooting on a tripod with an 800mm lens, and your tripod will be perfectly still. Your camera will be perfectly still. Your lens will be perfectly still. And you're shooting at 200th of a second, and everything works perfect except your subject's blurry. Why? Because your subject's still moving. Your shutter speed's not fast enough to stop the motion of your subject. So be careful with that. But a tripod really does help. Another thing, a monopod, my favorite. Monopods are great. They save your arms. They give you something to lean on. They give you something to rest your camera on when you're shooting. They help to stabilize your camera a little bit. Adding a monopod and the image stabilizing of your camera or lens will allow you to take your ISO down, and you will get less of the noisiness in the image. What else can you do? Here's a trick that I did years ago. If you're trying to reduce the noise, make sure you're not underexposing your images. Every time you underexpose an image, and then you have to bring it back and you have to correct it on Photoshop before you send it to your customer, you're artificially increasing the noise. Try to get your exposure right. In digital photography, overexposing is as bad as anything, if not worse than anything. But you want to try to get it as close to a proper, correct exposure as you can. Underexposing is just going to cause the noise to just blow out horribly. Now, with all those things said, those are some ideas you can do. Not going to cost you anything. But in some situations, you're going to have to spend the money to get a better camera or a better lens. But let me tell you this, and again, I hear this constantly. No one camera manufacturer has better quality, lower noise than another. One may have it today, one may have it tomorrow, one may have it the next day. Maybe a camera model today is better than the camera model yesterday or compared to a similar camera model. But it's not just by switching to a different camera make or model that you're going to get the all and end all. Things vary. As I've said for a long time, I shoot with a Canon 70D my videos. I do a lot of work in the studio with my Canon 70Ds. I have 5D Mark IVs as well. On my 70Ds, they're an older camera. If I shoot at 1600, the pictures are grainy. Whereas on my 5D Mark IV, if I shoot at 6400, they have less grain than the 70Ds do. I've had people come in the studio and say, well, comparing your 70D to my brand new mirrorless camera, they're really grainy. Well, yeah, you're comparing apples to oranges, not even close. So if you do have to upgrade, check it out, see what's the newest, see what's the best. Don't fall for the trap of you got to go this brand or you got to go that, you got to go this, and go from there. Now, a couple things in post-processing that can help you to reduce the noise or not overly enhance the noise. First thing is, watch your corrections that you're doing. Adding saturation to an image will make the noise pop, and it will make it look insane in some situations. Be careful. I had a client come in not too long ago. They brought me in a beautiful picture. They wanted me to increase the saturation because they really wanted to blow the subject really up. They wanted to have it just like in your face, printed on metallic paper. So we increased the saturation to the level that they liked. It looked great. It looked wonderful. The problem was the blue sky above the subject looked really, really noisy. The noise just stood out. So what we did was, keeping the saturation level where it was for the subject, we went in and decreased the saturation in the sky. Made it look so much better. Yes, the picture was saturated where they wanted it saturated, but it didn't show the graininess, the noisiness of the sky or of the other areas that they didn't need to have it look like that. Made it look really nice. Likewise, increasing your levels or your curves, whichever you use, or your contrast or your brightness, can also have an effect on enhancing the noise. So be careful with that as well. Likewise, sharpening. I see people who will apply sharpening to an image. The whole image gets sharpened, and all of a sudden you can notice the noise in certain areas more so than in other areas. Be careful, because if you over sharpen just by the slightest amount, the noise will look insane. One last thing I want to talk about. There are programs out there that you can purchase that are saying they will reduce noise. I'm trying to be polite here. All these programs do in order to reduce noise is they soften the image. That's it. There's no program out there that can go through and it goes through each pixel and denoises it. No, what it does is it goes through and it smoothens out the image, unsharpens the image to make it look less noisy. Maybe you'll have to use it. Maybe if you've got a picture that you cannot salvage any other way, you'll have to do that. But in my trials that I've done, I have not found a picture yet that using that program makes it look as good as if I would have used a lower ISO. It improves it, but it doesn't fix it completely. So don't fall for that lie as well. So until next time, get out there and take some amazing pictures. Hope you have fun doing it. Try lower shutter speeds, try tripods, try different things to reduce your noise, and let me know down below in the comments how it worked for you. We'll talk to you again. Bye-bye now.